Back in the 90s and early 2000s, these were the alternator to go to if you're doing any sort of electrical accessories. I have dual batteries, I have a winch, I have a basic stereo system, not a whole lot of things in there. It's not a bass van, but it's a 200 amp alternator, which is just a hair higher than what you can normally get off of the shelf at your parts store. And they were awesome. CS144 case, you know, your basic GM case. They were a great little machine. But lately, this one was installed in May. It is now August. I didn't even get through the whole summer, and I didn't do anything rough with this truck over the summer. There's nothing crazy. I went off-road once or twice, but no real crazy trails. Didn't even make it down to Moab this year yet. Didn't go to Hurricane or anything else. So there's no reason this should have failed already. A lot of times the failure mode, I'll just look and I'll notice a voltage drop. Right now she's only charging at like 11 volts. That's not enough. I mean, I can run the truck, but the concern is that it's eventually going to drop all the way. Normally when they're new, they're running 14 volts, which is just a little bit of overcharge, which is fine. And I'm running your basic parts store AGM batteries. But it kills me. A lot of these brands that were the thing, what'd they do? Why are they screwed up now? You could do it without it. It's fun one-handed. But I do always remove the negatives just because I'm playing around with power cables, and I've got big welding leads that I constructed myself. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Remove those. There's always one bolt that's got to be hung up. And there's always got to be one little wound to bleed. CS144 case. I don't know what Mechman builds those out of. Kind of like a CS130. Their plug is here. Battery power lead is there. Whereas GM plugs here. Power lead's there. When I go looking these up online, by online I mean Summit Racing, it's kind of hard to tell if it's going to fit. They do give a dimension bolt hole to bolt hole. I didn't go look it up. I ordered what I thought was the closest fit. It looks it. I could pull the tape and find out, but the easiest thing is just to put it in and see if it bolts. Biggest question, and this is not very scientific here, but bolt surface to bolt surface, pulley to pulley, seems to be the same. It came, it says 207 amps at idle, which is awesome. And then at 1800 cruise speed, 280 amps. Tested by Al. Comes with this little harness and all of their warnings about it, the different applications you could use. These are all GM. So extension harness, it has this little yellow lead for something. Talks about lithium batteries and all that kind of stuff. When it says, even if your vehicle's stock alternator harness will plug in, use their harness. So I'm gonna do that. It's provided, it's easy. I'm gonna go clean up my blood and see if that actually fits. The other concern I have, see back at the CS144 has these bolt holes. My application, I was using that one because there's a bracket that comes in the back. Now, you know, just the blunt force trauma engineer in me says these two in the bottom should be enough, because this one has no such accommodation. Sure hope it works. That's the way it is for me all the time. I just get stuff and hope it works. That's just, I mean, look at that thing's freaking brand new almost. It was May. At least that's the last time I ordered one. The batteries are 924. I don't know. That's just their manufacture date. I'm pretty sure I did the batteries and the alternator at the same time. I can go back in my own videos and look. Maybe I had a video on it, maybe I didn't. Because something small like this, I usually don't video. But now you're at least saying, or seeing here, the difference between the PowerMaster CS144 and then whatever this one is, kind of a CS130. Internal voltage regulator and all that kind of stuff, just like this one has. It should work. I'm stalling. As I suspected, this additional bracket back here has to come off. It's in the way. But you look, you got double shear mounting points here and here. That should keep it fine. I don't know what concern the GM engineers had when they put that bracket on. Funny enough, that bracket, I had to turn it around years ago when I took an alternator off. We were in California at Monterey Bay. In Monterey, wherever that freaking place is. I hate going to California. But I had to flip that around, beat it and hammer it. We were at an Airbnb in a garage that they had, just tools on hand and getting it fixed and switched. All right, I'm gonna pull that off. All right, it's out. Luckily, I mean, you can't get wrenches back there too easy. And I got ratcheting wrenches, yes. But luckily that stuff's all, once you get it broke loose, it just goes finger tight off and none of it's jammed in there, none of it's corroded in there. So that was kind of good. All right, if you look on any of the websites, whether it's Summit Racing or you go to Mechman's website itself, they're gonna say no 7.4 liters, no Gen 6 big blocks. It's gonna say that pretty clearly. But in the paperwork, it also says you can modify to fit. So it means they don't have anything off the shelf. I spent some time last weekend talking to Mechman on the phone, and what he sent me, this came with this one, and there's the part number I actually picked up. Pause that, you can get that. It's a GM alternator, fits in there, bolts in nice and neat. I already long time ago did bigger wire upgrades for mine, so I'm good to go there. It came with this, lots more wires than a 7.4 has. 7.4 has one wire. His thoughts of why it's spitting out these alternators, and he said PowerMaster's a good company. But it's the wire that comes off of this goes to the computer, and the computer is doing something to the voltage regulator. It's frying it somehow. The computer's screwing it up. Maybe it has to do with the fact that this is a higher amp than the stock would be. But way back when, I had the same problem, same exact problem with my 2000 Tahoe, which was an OBS, you know, because the 2000 Z71s were still OBS Tahoes. It would spit out alternators. So the computer was doing something, and it didn't matter if I had a PowerMaster, it didn't matter if I put a stock one, it didn't matter what I did, it would spit out alternators. So the computer's doing something to fry the internal voltage regulator. And there's one control wire that goes to the computer in the stock form. So their solution is this little hookup. One wire. And it's going to go to 12 volt power. So you need that on ignition hot. And I just have to wire that in. He also said, looking at everything I've got, talking it through, he sent me a new pulley with a millimeter spacer. Get the spacer in there, or else you're going to shred belts. You know, simple serpentine 6 belt drive, or six rib drive. But that one should give me the correct ratio to make my alternator live the longest. In his best interest to do that, because they do a 2-year warranty, he'd rather not see this come back on a warranty. Good stuff. It was a good conversation with him. It's funny, I mean, they'll tell you from the get-go, they don't have a kit or an alternator that comes directly meant for these trucks, for the 7.4 liters, for the big 454s. But you can modify it. So if you're wanting to do that, you probably ought to just call them up. Their build time, it looked a little scary, whereas what I did was just get this alternator from Summit Racing, who has them in stock, but then I had to wait, and now here it is, you know, almost a week later, I finally got time to do something about this. I need to get this done. I got a couple belts. I'm gonna figure out which one of these will fit best, if either of them. What I've learned, this may be old hand for some people, K06, the 06 is 6 ribs, 122.3, that's your length of your belt. Whereas this one's 6 rib, 120.3. So I got two 2-inch ones in here. I hope one of these ones works. If not, I'm gonna have to go research some other ones. Funny thing is that's the cool green one, the heavy duty one. That could look kind of cool. I don't know which one's gonna fit. We're gonna find out, because I gotta switch that out. I gotta get that wired up, and then maybe I can have my truck running again. All right, I like using these crimp and heat shrink ones, trying to keep everything as watertight as I can. They've glued everything back here, so it should be watertight there too. It's your basic OEM weather pack connector. Just has the one wire. And this is gonna go to ignition hot. Good conversation, like I said, because he said very specifically 14 gauge wire, right? So I'm using 14 gauge copper. I'm gonna find something in the fuse block over there that I can tap into that's ignition hot. Again, I'll have to pull out the manual and figure out which one of those I'm tapping into. We'll find something. All right, from there and around there. Snake's right there, goes around, comes there. We got it all routed there. Inside the fuse relay center there are 2 slots for heated seats and heated mirrors, right? So 1 slot for each of those. I don't have those in this truck. That would have been an OBS Cadillac is my guess, and they're just gonna make those fuse boxes to fit all of the trucks. But this truck didn't have it. Maybe there was an upgrade of the Suburbans that did, maybe the high-end one, I don't know. Mine doesn't. There's still power there, and my theory here is that heated seats are ignition hot. They're not gonna be on when the truck's off, so that should be the circuit I need. You just need the 12 volts to feed this to turn this on. And that is the explanation I got from Mechman. I don't know what to do with this wire. Without that there, they were saying my battery light will be on the whole time. I don't know what kind of signal it expects. Could I put it on another 12 volt circuit and it feeds that and just gets the voltage? I don't know. If you know that, please put it in the comments. Please let me know. Because otherwise, I'm just going to put a piece of black electrical tape over my battery stuff, and I've got a couple of different voltmeters in the cab of the truck anyway, so I can keep an eye on what's going on. So there's the factory one, and there's the one I put in that gives me more of a digital readout, so I can see 11.2 volts is what I was getting. That's not right. I don't want 11.2. All right, that's there. Next thing, the pulley. So I got to get that pulley off and then put the new one on with its spacer, so everything's perfectly aligned and neat and beautiful. Okay, so I still have not been able to get the alternator to turn on, meaning this little 12 volt lead that goes to an ignition hot source over there is not making it turn on. Their instructions are very specific. Short ground leg. This has no power coating on it. I'm supposed to put a lead there. This particular lead I had grounded to the frame. That's the way it's been for years. So I'm about to shorten it and move it to here. We'll see if that does it, because again, their instructions are very specific. Shortest leg to the nearest battery. That battery, it goes down to the frame for its ground as well. That's worked for years. See all the other little grounds coming off it for all kinds of other little things too. One to the body, whole bunch to those relays that are right there. Let's see all those relays right in there. But I gotta figure it out. Pull that mounting bolt out and slip one in there, which means I'm gonna shorten this thing just a little bit right here. We'll see if this works. You can see, pure copper. It's basically a 1/0 welding lead. That's what I've used a lot of times. There's arguments back and forth on what to use and not to use. So I just gotta trim this back and then get the hammer crimper out. May end up detaching this whole thing, so I gotta get a gooder, better crimp on it. For stripping big cables like this, you use the cutters, you just don't get into the copper. Just use it because the blades on it are sharp enough to go through the rubber jacketing and the paper. There's paper in there as well. But it'll go through all that, and that way you can get the copper exposed, and then you can get your lugs on. All right, there we go. Nice crimp. Got some heat shrink to go on it. I don't have a size. I don't know if this one's gonna work. I need a better size, probably. Am I being lazy? Yes. Did I put a dent in my radiator support? Maybe a little, but that's a good solid crimp. It's on there. That's gonna go nowhere. See if this heat shrink will do it. If not, I'll have to find some more on another day. But yeah. Well, that's the other thing I didn't consider. Is that hole big enough? If not, I'll drill it out. That's simple enough to do. It's copper. Okay, this little sleeve thing here, tap, 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 it moves in. You can see where the rust is at. That moves in. It gives me enough space, I think, to slip this in. I hope. This could be fun. But if you notice, that face on that bolt hole has no power coating on it. They meant for that to be the ground. The case is the ground. Some other cases will have a stud that you can just bolt to. A lot of times it's on the back of the case. This one does not. So it's that front. They mean for this copper to make as much contact with that as possible. So the outside's not it. It needs to be here on that face. And get as much contact and get the best ground as possible. All right. All right, so this whole debacle began with the old fuse block. And I had 200 amp fuses on it running those Power Masters, and those Power Masters can peak above 200, but it never looked like the fuses were blown on it. It was in here that it was messed up. I don't have pictures of that, sorry. But so what I should have done in the first place was this exactly, replace the entire block and that. So I think the other alternator was actually fine. So it's on the shelf, saving it for another application some other day. I knew this fuse block was a problem. Mechman's instructions tell you 400 amps, because this thing puts out, what was the birth sheet on this one? I showed it earlier in the video, I'm sure. But it's above 250 amps. It's like 280. So they want it well and above the capacity with the fuses. And everything's hooked up, like I said before, the way they said. Ground directly from there to the battery. Power, direct route to the battery. Other than the second battery, which comes around and goes there to the other battery. Now, you take that belt. Got the pulley changed off. I actually had to take that to my mechanics. I don't have the tools to do all that, so they did that for me. But the belt now, you can look at that number if you want, but unless you've got the same exact setup on this, it's not going to do you much good. No, though, you will have to change your belt sizes. I mean, if you are doing this kind of an alternator but you don't have a pro charger, then yeah, you're gonna have to play around and find the right length belt. And you can do that with string, you can do that with trial and error, you pick your method. But now, yeah, the truck charges at 14 volts constant. And one of the things Mechman said is they said you might have your battery light on. I don't, which is interesting to see. Somewhere along the line, the truck still knows that it's getting full charge, and so the battery warning light does not come on. But yeah, one of those things where I kind of feel stupid, because I probably didn't need to replace that Power Master. Probably was just this fuse block, though I had all the parts. And so when Mechman, I had a 300 amp fuse ready to go, but Mechman says, nope, go 400. So now I've got 400s in there. But yeah, all of that. What an adventure. Hopefully it does you some good. You know what you need to do if you're actually going to put a Mechman in, and Mechman doesn't do a direct fit. There's a little bit more wiring and everything else goes with it. But now you know how that looks and how much you're going to have to do. And if you were to call up Mechman, make sure you tell them you're doing this knowing full well the website says they don't have a direct fit replacement. It's not going to use the factory wiring harness. You're going to tap in to your fuse block over there. All right, appreciate you watching. We'll catch you on the next one.